Good evening, everybody out there in Irish Breakdown land. I'm Vince D'Addario. That's Brian Driscoll. It says it right there at the bottom. It is upon further review, IB After Dark. And Brian and I have successfully dove into the film. And
dove into the film.
Okay, we dove into the film.
We dove into the deep end.
And there was no life
very
preserver.
Depressing.
Yeah,
very depressing plane ride home. I started yelling at the guy sitting next to me, like, look at this. What is this read? The whole plane's like, what is this guy going off about?
That's great.
It was wild.
But yeah. So hey, in case anybody hasn't been here with us before, the reason we do this show is because we got to get into the film. We're both coaches. It's what we do after a game, win, loss, otherwise. What did we see live versus what we saw on film? And there are times where a certain position group or a certain player plays better than we thought, and there are other times where a certain position or position group played worse than we thought. And I think in this particular viewing, it's a little bit of both, to be honest with you. I would say it's a little bit, we've heard about play calling, we've heard about execution, we've heard about, offensive line play, we've heard about quarterback play, wide receiver play, right? Like,
some of it's good, some of it's off.
There's a happy medium in there someplace, folks.
Can I ask you something, Vince? I want to start off with this, Vince. We're just going to dive right into this, man. We're going to spend like most of our time on the offense. We're going to just briefly talk about the defense. We'll do super chats at the end. No mailbag, super chats. I want to just dive into this, Vince, and I want to ask your opinion first.
Okay.
And I'll say what I felt, and you tell me if it was the same for you.
Okay.
This is one of the games this year that I had the biggest. I thought this going in, and some of it was confirmed, but a lot of it there were things that I thought were good in this game that weren't.
Yes.
And there were things that I didn't like in this game that I wouldn't say I liked, but it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought because there were other issues plaguing it. I had a lot of different back and forths on this, Vince. A lot of big back and forths on this. And I would say the direction that I wanted to take this show has probably changed 5 or 6 times a day as I continue focusing on different aspects of the team. Because this was a very frustrating game watch. And I felt worse about this game after breaking it down than I did live. And as you all remember from yesterday, I wasn't exactly in a jolly mood after the game last night.
Well,
and how did you feel, Vin?
Watching the game live, it just, to me, I was never in a good mood from start to finish, to be honest. And I felt like a lot of other Notre Dame fans that, they're probably not going to win this game, pretty early on, to be honest with you. On the rewatch, there were so many missed opportunities. And I think that's the theme for me. It's the missed opportunities, right? And we talked about this a little bit before we hit the live button. And there were so many chances, even with how poorly Notre Dame played, they still had a multitude of opportunities to win this game.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I mean, they didn't even need their A game to win this game by any stretch of the imagination. Clemson was doing their best to hand Notre Dame the victory. Notre Dame was like, no, we're good. To a degree, like I'm saying overall, right? Going back and watching the film just was heartbreaking, to be honest with you.
I was disgusted by it, to be completely honest with you, in a lot of different ways. Yeah, the one thing I have pushed back on a lot, Vince, is this notion that, and I get what you're saying, that Clemson was trying to give Notre Dame the game. I really felt like part of that was the Notre Dame defense kept stopping them. I mean, there was defense didn't do a great job yesterday, but second half, I mean, they shut Clemson down for the most part, which helps when you're not throwing pick sixes and muffing punts and those type of things. But anyway, Vince, just offensively, the biggest thing to start off with is look, there's going to be some things we saw play calling we did not like, and we're going to talk about it. There's some things we saw play calling wise that we did like. We're going to talk about some things we're like, okay, like it or love it, whatever. The fact is, it was there, and you
Mm-hmm.
you didn't execute. The biggest takeaway before we dive into some of the other things we didn't like, because there's going to be a couple coaches on the Notre Dame staff that are going to really not like me after today, but probably didn't like me beforehand, but they're going to really not like me now.
Yeah.
But I was so ticked off because this was just a game of absolute wasted opportunities. And you watch this and you're looking at Notre Dame's first 8 drives. They got inside the 30-yard line on the first drive. Big mistake on drive 2 that cost them. Big mistakes on drive 3 that cost them. We'll go through these drive by drive. Then they got down to the Clemson 12. Then they had a pick 6. Then they got down to the Clemson 5. Then they had a touchdown. Then they had a touchdown. Like they could have scored 40 in this game. Probably an exaggeration. They could have easily scored 31 to 35 points easy if they just executed basic football 101 stuff. And that's the thing that bothers me is like these aren't like what was the big complaint we had about Tom Reese at times? Too complex. There's too much going on. And it's like guys aren't able to do all this. And now it's like, dude, they're doing basic football read 101 stuff that a freshman quarterback should be able to read, and you're missing it. You're doing basic run game stuff, and you're getting your flipping butt kicked. There were so many opportunities, Vince, and we're going to kind of go series by series and talk about this because I don't want to take anything away from Clemson. Those kids played their butts off. They were down 8 starters yesterday, and they had their backs against the wall. They had nothing to lose, and they played like it. And tip of the cap to the Clemson coaches. They did a lot of things yesterday that I hadn't seen a ton of on film. They had Notre Dame scouted pretty well. Yeah. I was expecting a lot of too high safety looks, which is what Clemson always does. They were almost exclusively man free. They basically said, "I'm going to dare your receivers to beat us," and Notre Dame was like, "Okay, well, I guess we're going to lose then." I mean, just there's so many things that were frustrating by that, but some of it's tip of the cap to Clemson, right? I mean, but even with how hard Clemson played and the good job the coaches made, they made Clemson look way better than they were on both sides of the ball. Both sides of the ball. But offensively, just these missed opportunities on basic stuff, Vince, is just mind-boggling. So are you ready to kind of go through my series and just point stuff out?
Yeah, unfortunately. It's like the 4th time I've gone through this. It's just as painful each time. It's the hardest part about this.
So let's just start off with Series 1, Vince, and just kind of go through it. Obviously, Notre Dame gets a 29-yard run from Audric Estime on snap 2, gets a 25-yard Estime run on the next play, which came after a false start, where the quarterback did not let his players get lined up before he snapped the ball.
Right.
You go for a 2-yard run on the next play. You're now 2nd and 8 at the Clemson 29-yard line. You are cruising. You are moving. They run a little now screen to Chris Tyree on 2nd and 8, and first the mistakes begin to happen. This is where it kicked off. Mm-hmm. Hartman rushes the throws it behind Tyree. He's got to spin around to catch the ball, which takes any chance for him to quickly catch and get vertical. And for some reason, Holden Stace felt the need to double team the cornerback.
Yeah.
Instead of going to the safety. It's at least a 4 or 5 yard gain.
Yes.
Like it's not, oh my God, it's a touchdown. It's at least a 4 or 5 yard gain, which would have put them in 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3, at least. Right. And then on 3rd down, they ran for 6 yards. Right. Like mistake numero uno right there. Just like rushing a throw, not knowing who to block. Just simple a now screen, Vince. That's all it was. This isn't rocket science.
Right. And
they were not prepared to block it.
He didn't even Holden Stace didn't even look to the safety. And look, blocking rules at the high school level when we're running something along those lines, it's most dangerous, right? Yeah. That corner was not most dangerous. Like the safety screaming down was most dangerous.
And just by the formation alone, you're in a 3 receiver set. There's no reason to go there. Yeah. You're not going to block the corner in that situation. It was just mistake number 1. And it killed the drive. You went from 2nd and 8, driving inside the 30-yard line, to now you're backed up and you're in 3rd and 10. Right? That's what it boils down to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you saw on that drive a glimpse of what Clemson was going to bring, because I thought the one thing I did like about that play is how quickly they rallied to Tyree. That's why I say, like, that's not a big gain. That's That's a 4 or 5 yard gain.
Sure.
But that's okay. 4 or 5 yard gain, quick screen. You're now 2nd and 4, or third and 4, 3rd and 3, and you're in a better situation.
Right.
And they don't get it. That's drive number 1. Drive number 2. This was a very frustrating series, in my opinion, Vince, because that was the series where you just got 2nd and 2. Audric makes a great run on this was actually the second series, right? Yeah. You get the ball at your own 14. Audric makes a really nice run, gets 8 yards. And then the next play, that was the one where I believe Zeke Correll just gets driven into the ball carrier. Correct? Wasn't that what that play was?
Yep. I'm looking right at it.
And you're just kind of like, how does that happen? Right? I mean, this is like what exactly is the issue for everyone that wants to take the easy way out? And that's what a lot of us are doing. We're taking the easy way out with our criticism. Oh, the play caller sucks. It's bad play calls. Okay, sure. I'll just say this, Vince. I'm going to tell you all right now. I'm going to give you all a little warning on this show tonight. If you are someone who just wants to have regurgitated whatever is going to make you feel better, or if you just want us to agree with the masses and just easily say, fire this guy, play calling sucks, whatever, then you may want to bow out now. Because we're going to have some issues with the play calling, but there was a lot more to it. And this show does not take the easy, lame, cheap, anybody can do a podcast way out. Okay. We're going to break it down. What exactly is the play call that should have been called to keep your center from getting driven 3-4 yards back into the ball carrier? What was the play call?
2nd and 2.
Gone to? On second and two. They ran Audric Estime downhill on 2nd and 2. What other play call would you have liked to have seen there on 2nd and 2 to say, hey, your center doesn't get driven back? Because throughout the game, and we'll get into this more, your offensive linemen were getting driven back constantly. That was one of the biggest differences in this game, Vince. I thought the O-line played better live than they did. Yes. They happen to have about 4 or 5 well-blocked plays, maybe. Some of it was Audric just being a dude. He was a star yesterday. Yes, he was making yards where it's like, dude, that was reading it really, really, really well. And the kid that made that play is number 19. He's their 5th D tackle. 5th D tackle on their depth chart.
Right.
Notre Dame made him look like a star. They made Peter Woods, a freshman, look like a star. Now, maybe he will be, but he dominates. So that kills that drive. Next play, they run a 3rd and 4 call that I hated, to be honest with you. And the only pass that I'll give is because Clemson was running man, and I don't think Notre Dame had realized yet how much man Clemson was going to run. But even then, I still don't like the routes. I'm just kind of 3 of the 4 routes didn't get to the sticks, right? And because one guy got jammed and the other 2 were quick slides. I didn't love that 3rd and 4 call. That's one where Sam gets sacked. Running back whiffs on the block. Another premonition or a prequel of what's going to happen. Jabron Payne just whiffs on the blitzing linebacker. Notre Dame's running backs wanted no part of Jeremiah Trotter in pass protection yesterday.
Right.
So drive number 2, center gets his butt kicked on snap 2. Running back whiffs on the next play because maybe if he picks him up, maybe Sam can scramble out and you do some kind of scramble drill. You know what I mean? But you kill the play when you completely whiff and he gets drilled by Jeremiah Trotter.
He didn't even have a chance to throw the ball on that particular play because the only routes that had been completed were the ones that were short of the sticks and wouldn't have been a first down anyway.
And were covered well by Clemson. They got
covered well
on that. Really
so the only guy, honestly, that was open on that play was Holden Stays, and he was already in the grasp of Trotter when he came open. You know what I mean? So like there was really nothing he could do without better protection on that particular play. So, he had nowhere to go with the football. I mean, when you got a linebacker bearing down on you that's not even getting touched, there's not really a whole lot you can do except maybe throw it away, but I don't even think he had time to do that. So
Notre Dame punts there from their own 12. It's a 55-yard or 44-yard punt that gets a 15-yard return. Clemson takes over at the 41-yard line, scores on the next play. DJ Brown comes on a blitz. He goes high. They cut up underneath him and touchdown. But again, they started at the 41-yard line going in. So all of a sudden, just like that, all the momentum that Notre Dame had, 7-3-0, gone, 7-3. Notre Dame gets the ball back. And this is where you started to see it. Again, you saw early what was going to plague this team. You saw it early. And this is the first play that we're going to break down for you. So this is a pre-snap look of what Notre Dame did. They had just gotten Chris Tyree right here to motion inside. Okay. So this is the look that we see pre-snap. So you can see right now that this is going to be a man look. Okay. So you're going to have a press man inside. So the reason that it looks like this is because when Tyree came in motion, that corner came inside, but this is a single high safety look. Okay. The other safety, you have a linebacker here because Clemson is a 4 down here with the linebacker here, linebacker there. You got a nickel and a safety, or you have a safety, nickel, and a corner safety right here. And so this is the route combination that Notre Dame is going to run. They're basically running a flood concept. Okay. You're going to get a post route. I believe that's Holden Stace. I believe that ran that post route. Vince, he's running a clear, right? He's clearing things out.
Yep.
So basically what you're doing right here is you're going to basically run a triangle concept. So I want you all to try to be able to picture this to here, to here, to here, right? This right here, it's a triangle. So you're clearing out with Holden Stace, and then you're running a triangle concept. And this play is executed on a day one install type of way. So these are the routes that are being run. Okay. So on the snap, Holden Stace is going to run a clear post. Jaden Greathouse is going to run a corner route. Jeremiah Love is going to run a free release slide to be the third guy. So you're basically going to run some kind of high-low there against if they play zone, you're running a high-low, right? Where if it's zone, then Stace takes this guy with him, right? And then now you're reading this guy for the slide corner combination, right? I'm sorry. That was not Chris Tyree. Excuse me. That was Jaden Greathouse. Chris Tyree is the guy
Tyree's in the front.
He's running the clear. He's running the clear. Stace is down here. So Tyree's running the clear. So you're going to run a slide corner combination here if it's zone. If it's man, then you're basically reading what this linebacker does. And at the snap of the ball, this linebacker right here. Now, can you guys see this? There's one linebacker here.
Right.
The other guy's here, and he's coming off the edge. Right now, they could have dropped in zone, and that's fine, and that's part of the read. But at the snap, it's clearly man at the snap. This guy goes flying with Jeremiah Love.
Yes. I mean, immediately.
Yeah. Chris Tyree takes this guy on the clear, and then the other guy is jamming Jaden Greathouse. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got your backside high-low concept. Holden Stace is running an in-cut, and Rico Flores is running a crossing route. Now, this corner down here decides to go over top of Holden Stace instead of going under. And that clears it out. So this is the linebacker. So if you see this play right here, do you guys see that middle linebacker right there? Okay, you see that middle linebacker, the only linebacker in the box? He's the guy chasing Jeremiah Love up here. Right? Covered. This guy's eating Jaden Greathouse up. Sam Hartman never took his eyes off Jaden Greathouse once he saw that Jeremiah Love was being covered. This is textbook. It's triangle to the backside high-low. Vince, that's stuff that I taught my freshman quarterbacks at the Division III level on day one install. Look how open this is. And the thing is, there's nobody looking at him. This is the only guy looking at him, and look how far away he is. This is 1st and 10 at your own 25. If you complete this ball, you're at least out to the 40-yard line, at least. Would you disagree with that? At least out to the 40-yard line. Mistake number one on that drive. Next play, you run Jeremiah Love up the middle. Your offensive line gets 0 push. You only get 2 yards. You come back on 3rd and 8. It's man free. Where's the safety, Vince? You see this is the ball? These are going to be rhetorical questions so you can help me get through this.
I got you.
Where's the free safety, Vince? Is he over top of the center? Is he cheating in the middle? Where is he?
Cheating to the middle.
So if you're a quarterback and you're running all vert concepts here, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking well, I don't know if you wanted me to answer that question.
Yes, of course.
Okay. I'm thinking boundary.
Right.
I'm thinking boundary.
You're going to read the safety because you're either going to come here to here depending on how they do it. But if this safety was flying over top, then you're coming backside to this one-on-one right here. That's what you're reading.
I don't see your cursor. Are you on the right screen?
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm not. So you're either going to go here or here,
there you go.
right, with your 1-2. Because this guy's all the way over here. If he's going to fly over here to be able to impact, if he's going to fly up top to impact this, then you're coming backside to Chris Tyree in a one-on-one against the safety. Correct? That's
Correct.
101. The throw you're not making is the field outside, the far field go route. Now, look, Jaden Greathouse has got to do a better job here. He did a terrible job here, right? I mean, he just did. Jaden's he's struggling right now because he's not comfortable with what he's doing right now. And I still don't think he's healthy because he just doesn't have that burst he had early in the year. But he gets covered up. But it never should have gone. It never should have gone here anyway. And when you watch the play, he stares at Jaden Greathouse the entire time.
Oh yeah,
never looks the downside. And I don't know. I don't have it here, Vince, but I showed you the video of that play. I'm going to put this on the message board. Tobias Merriweather. This is Tobias Merriweather against Nate Wiggins in the boundary. He smoked Nate Wiggins off the line. He had him at least by 2-3 steps, at least. And 2-3 steps against Nate Wiggins is all you're going to get. Third and 8, Tobias whips the guy off the line. Just did a really nice stutter, stuck it and beat him outside. He
just outran him.
When Sam is here, Tobias is like 5-6 yards past where Jaden Greathouse is, and Jaden Greathouse is getting jammed. So Jaden's already getting jammed, and Sam's like, I'm throwing it anyway, to the field. Never looks backside. If he reads it the way he should read it, football 101, day one stuff, Vince, you're running 4 verts against man free with the safety cheating over towards your field side. This is as simple as it gets. It's as simple as it gets.
And I would argue, yes, Tobias Merriweather was open because he ran a good route and he uses athleticism. He's open. I would also argue that the post run by the slot on the boundary side was also open.
Holding space.
Yeah. Because the safety that is over the top of him in man-to-man lets the receiver go underneath him and therefore wins that battle, right? Because if Sam throws it to the middle of the field, he allows the receiver just to run underneath it because the safety is behind him at this point. So I would argue that both of the guys on the boundary were open on this play, and yet Sam doesn't even look in that direction. Doesn't even look. Right. And the safety on this play, as soon as the ball is snapped, we're talking like immediately flips his hips and goes to the field.
Yep.
Doesn't even look to the boundary.
Doesn't read Sam at all. He's just opening to the middle.
Immediately.
And Sam stares at him.
Correct.
And so, Vince, to your point, even if you say, okay, first of all, your job is to read the defense and throw the football. It is the receiver's job to either catch or not catch the football. If you're going to eliminate one of your receivers simply because you don't trust him, then you need to tell the coaches don't put him on the field anymore. But that's not your job. Your job is to read the defense and throw the football. And you're going to tell me that he has more confidence in a guy that hasn't caught a pass in 5 games. Now, please understand, these are not shots at Jaden Greathouse. Jaden Greathouse is being misused right now, in my opinion.
Oh, my gosh. Yes.
Right? So this Jaden Greathouse should be catching more passes, and he's not being put in position to be successful. Correct. Okay, so please don't take this as a shot at Jaden Greathouse. But the facts are what they are. He's not caught a pass in 5 games now. And you're telling me you have more faith in him than a guy that you threw a 42-yard bomb the week before. Okay, that's on you. That is 100% on you as a quarterback. But to your point, Vince, even if he's like, I'm not throwing it to the bias against Nate Wiggins, no way. All right, don't agree with it. I'll live with it. Let's say he looks field side because he has more faith in Jaden Greathouse. Even then, with the way the safety opens, you say, I'm coming either to the seam to Tyree or I'm coming backside.
Correct.
That's where the throw should be. Because verse cover 3, that's where cover 1 and cover 3, that's a bind for that guy to play that. And especially against press man, because usually with outside releases and press man, those corners are turning their hips back or their backs to the quarterback. They can't squeeze. Like if it's cover 3, a seam can get dangerous because in cover 3, the cornerback opens up and his numbers go inside. And the reason the corner's numbers go inside is because he can now play the go route, but he can also squeeze on a seam route. That's how you cover 4 verts out of cover 3. And you have 3 guys. So you got to reroute with your inside guys. But this is clearly not cover 3, Vince. This is clearly cover 1.
Right.
So when you're playing cover 1 and you take the outside verticals, those guys are going to flip their hips and they're going to turn their numbers to the receivers, which means their backs are to the seam routes, which means I'm reading the safety. So even if you're going to read the safety and he goes here, your thought isn't still now, okay, let me throw the far outside go route.
Right.
It's still the wrong read. It's still the wrong read. And so on this particular play, that's on the QB. Now, Jaden's got to do a better job getting a release, but this is on the QB. So we're on the third series already, Vince.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had a huge mistake on a 2nd and 8 pass. We've had a false start. We've had a center getting blown up. We've had a blown coverage by the running back. We've had now 2 just disastrous, easy football 101 reads by the quarterback. And we're now 3 series. We're only 3 series into the game.
Right.
And then the offense doesn't get the ball back again because you then muff your next punt. Clemson goes 3 and out. You punt it. They muff it. They get the ball at the 22-yard line. Your defense does a pretty good job, in my opinion, of holding them back and saying, hey, we're only holding them a field goal. Great job, defense. Notre Dame gets the ball back at their own 25. They go 6 yards to Audric. Sam makes a great decision on the quarterback draw. You go rush for 5 yards to Audric, and we're moving now. And then 2 things happen on the rest of this series, and Notre Dame gets a field goal. Number 1 is a tip of the cap play to Clemson. Notre Dame ran a bootleg. It was the last play of the first quarter. You guys can go look it up if you want. It was the bootleg to Holden Stace. They brought a corner fire. If they don't bring a corner fire, Notre Dame has Eli Raridan, Rico Flores, and Holden Stace all wide open. It's a perfect play call. Perfect play call for Notre Dame. 3 guys wide open. Nate Wiggins can only cover 1 of them. Somebody's wide open for a touchdown. Clemson called a corner fire against a naked. There's nothing Sam can do except take the slide to Holden. He does a good job. Clemson rallies, 7-yard gain, but Notre Dame gets the ball first down at the 19-yard line. So sometimes that's one of those ones where you say, tip the cap. Good call, coach.
Right, for sure. Right.
Notre Dame had a great call made. Clemson had the perfect call for it.
Yep.
Perfect call for it, and they cover.
That's football.
Sometimes, man.
That's football, man. And they still got a first down out of the deal. I mean, getting the ball to Holden Stace was actually a really nice play by Sam because he completed that pass, got a first down. You're inside the red zone at that point. So, yes, you missed on the touchdown, but you still have opportunity at this point. 1st and 10 at the 19.
Right. So 1st and 10 at the 19. First play. 1st and 10. I believe it was Peter Woods, correct? Was this the one where Peter Woods, a true freshman, comes off and just blows up the 2 backs, 2 players for Notre Dame, right? Let me go up the play. This is the one, right, Vince? The 1st and 10.
This was an awkward 2-back play.
They're running. It looks like they're running inside zone.
Yeah.
And Tyler Davis. This one was Tyler Davis.
Okay.
Tyler Davis comes off the line and beats both
13
Rocco Spindler and Zeke Correll up the field.
Just
Splits
split
them.
Split
and they both step and catch.
Right.
It's like I said something, Vince, that made me want to cry today. And I felt like I was watching a Jeff Quinn offensive line on Saturday. That's how bad it was at times, where they were just catching.
Yeah.
So 1st and 10, you're in the red zone. Audric Estime is beasting Clemson right now.
Correct.
What was the play call you guys would have wanted them to do? It's their bread and butter inside zone play. It's their bread and butter. And here's the thing. They had 3 guys just flat whiff on that particular play.
Yes, there
was two. They ran a twist, and the twister blew up the center and the guard. That's what they slanted him. That should not happen. Rocco passes that guy inside and looks for the twister, and he just turns his hips and just blows it up. and then 33 loops around, blows up the
and
run.
just
0
wide
yards.
open. Like there's nobody to
Yeah.
block him because he's just sitting in the hole,
Right.
waiting. Yeah.
If you block this like a team that's just coached relatively well, that's a 4 or 5 yard gain. Instead, it's stuffed at the line of scrimmage.
Right.
And then next play, Vince, because Audric Estime is a stud, you gain 7 yards, despite the fact you had Zeke Correll and the guard were both taken on this play. This one was not on Zeke. They're running their pin and pull that they've been killing Clemson with all day.
Yep.
Pat Coogan, who just his footwork on this all day was bad. He just basically picks his feet up and lunges at the guy.
He goes,
crushes
like,
him up the field.
His angle was terrible. He went to
There was no
inside
angle.
shoulder.
Yeah.
Is what it looked like. First of all, the defensive tackle is lined up in a 3 technique.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and so that should be a pretty easy down block. But
Yeah.
he ends up getting him on the inside shoulder.
Yeah.
And then he
flies up the field. Yeah, guy flies up the field, blows Patrick Coogan off the ball, drives Coogan in because Zeke is running it's a pin and pull. So Zeke is working outside and Zeke is cruising. He had a couple good blocks on these.
Sure.
Zeke, I thought, moved really well on these pin and pulls. Zeke's coming around and he gets knocked down because Coogan gets driven into him.
Yes. He can't even
get
on his path. Yeah.
Audric, being a stud, sees that, cuts inside, and then bounces outside for a 7 yard gain. Right? I mean, guy's an absolute stud. Absolute stud.
And he's lucky that he missed Fisher getting absolutely blown backwards onto his tush. And he sidesteps Fisher and then cuts up field. I mean, it was just it was a
phenomenal. It was one of the most impressive 7 yard runs I've ever seen.
Yes. I know.
It really was. It really was. Yeah, because Fisher got bowed back.
Badly.
So then we get to 3rd and 3 at the Clemson 12 yard line. 10-3 game. If Notre Dame puts it in the end zone here, it's ball game. And Jared Parker makes the stupid play call that gets Jabron Payne wide open in the flats.
Yeah, terrible play
Such an idiot for getting Jabron Payne wide open in the flats. Sam Hartman has made this throw before this season.
Yep.
Either lob it over top or sidearm it outside or something. And instead, he just throws it right at the rusher and it gets batted down. If he just there is nobody near Jabron Payne.
He's got plenty of time near him. Run underneath it.
Lob it up to the sideline, step outside, sidearm it, something. It doesn't have to be a pretty throw because there's nobody out there. And
it's a walk-in touchdown, fellas. It's a walk-in touchdown. It's a great call. It's a great call.
Now, I did not like the protection call. Now, Blake did the right thing. Blake is blocking on the edge, and he's basically told that if the backer blitzes through, you've got to go take him. My whole thing is if that backer runs a delayed blitz, then let him come. You've got the slide route wide open. Let him come.
Yeah,
and then
absolutely.
Blake on the edge, and then Sam has a better chance of getting the ball outside.
Because I thought that this was a mistake on Blake's part, to be perfectly honest with you. I was like, if he stays with the defensive end, he doesn't get his hands in the air.
Yeah.
And it's a complete pass because the blitzing linebacker, you're just replacing the blitzing linebacker with the running back. That's a blitz beater right there. So, and plus he's coming at a different angle. So it doesn't affect the pass at all.
Yeah.
But
by rule,
the right thing. Yeah,
right.
By rule, by the right thing.
Right. So you come out the next series, and we're just the mistake fest continues. So again, I'm not defending the coaching staff. So just let us get through this whole thing, and you guys will understand where I'm coming from. My whole point is, let's not take the easy way out and just say play calling. Because so far in this game, Vince, I've had one call I didn't like so far. Actually, no, I haven't even got to that one yet. You just called a 3rd down play at the 12-yard line where a guy's wide open. You catch them in a blitz. It's exactly what you wanted. They're playing zero. They blitz a linebacker. You're free releasing your back. There's nobody to cover them. It should be a touchdown. But your quarterback doesn't make the throw he needs to make. And Sam owned it after the game. I will give him that. So then you come out the next series. First play, Audric Estime, 21 yards. Holding Jaden Greathouse. And it was holding.
It was
holding. Totally. Now, a lot of people have complained about the officiating. And it's an absolute scam and a travesty that Clemson wasn't called for a single penalty, because I can promise you Clemson held multiple times.
Right.
Were physical with receivers at times. But I'm not going to waste any time on that, because that's not why Notre Dame lost.
No.
That was a hold. That particular one was a hold. So then you come back the next play, and this is where the game was forever changed. It's still 10-6. It's 10-6 right now. You've got the ball, and Notre Dame comes out in this look. Empty formation. What do you see numbers-wise there, Vince?
It looks to me like we've got 2-on-2 at the top and 4-on-3 at the bottom. It's 17-6, by the way, at this point.
No, it's 10-6.
The pick six made it 24. 100%.
I'm looking at the box score now. Just give me a second. Okay, yeah. So they had just gone down. They had just scored.
Yeah.
That was the one where he hit Tyler Brown on the slant route. So it's 17-6, and the game changes.
But either way, your point still stands.
No. I want to be accurate always.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the box score right now and just, getting my bearings straight.
Yep.
So they come out in this play. It's an empty concept, right? So right away, you're seeing numbers 4/3 and 2/. Now, the guy to think about is this guy right here. This guy off the edge. He could be number 3. We'll get to that in a second.
Sure.
This is the route combination that Notre Dame is running. Simple, basic concept. This is like day one install type of stuff. You're running a hitch up top, and then Chris Tyree is running a wide fade. Holden Stace is running an option route. Notre Dame has completed 20, 30 option routes this year so far. Backside, the running back up top here is running just a clear route, and you've got a one-on-one slant right here. Now, the danger to the slant is this guy right here who's coming. But that guy almost always blitzed in this game. And number one, if he does drop, he's dropping here, not riding. He's not going to where Jaden Greathouse is going.
Right.
So to me, based on my pre-snap read, I'm telling my correction of the quarterback is you need to be throwing boundary. That's where our numbers are. And you had leverage. Jaden had slight inside coverage. The guy covers Jaden okay, but you've got a shot to throw that ball into his stomach. So I'm telling him to throw there. If you want to go field side, Vince, this is the read is, you're looking for the option, but you're seeing man free. You're feeling really good about that wide fade. So at the snap of the ball, Jeremiah Trotter squats on the option. Man, Vince, you got to be looking out. Even if you say, "Hey, I don't like the look backside. I'm not throwing the slant." Fine. Even if you look field side with the 3/2, this guy right here is not covering Chris Tyree on a wide fade.
Not chance.
Not happening. So even if you don't like that, once you see Jeremiah Trotter jumped the route from the start.
Oh my gosh, yes. And he's underneath
Throw the wide fade.
Oh yeah.
It was never a question. That ball should not have gone there. That was a quarterback that stared down a route and didn't read it.
And Tyree, by the way, ran a pretty good route here. And because he stemmed, the way he stemmed this route, he ran right into the kitchen of that safety. Okay. And that's what you want to do. You want to make him flip his hips in one way or the other. You want to get right into him and force him to make a decision. He got right into him and then breaks outside and up. There's no chance that safety keeps up with Chris Tyree. 0. And as a quarterback, you just put it out there and let Chris run underneath it. And that's a 78-yard touchdown or whatever it is, 77-yard touchdown if he allows that to happen, because that free safety is never going to get over to cover Chris Tyree. Not a chance at this point. And so that's frustrating. It was a 14-point swing, to be honest with you. If he throws the ball to Chris Tyree, and I realize it's a situation where, okay, I'm looking at roses and yes, whatever. To me, at the very least, it's a 7-point swing.
Now, on this particular play, you and I don't necessarily see eye to eye on the route Tyree ran. But I'm going to make the point that it doesn't matter.
Fair enough.
And here's what I mean. My issue is just an issue I have with the receivers overall. It's as a quarterback, I don't love where Chris Tyree was on this route because he comes off with no urgency. yes, technically, I'm fine with the route. Number one, I think he got a little too close to the guy, which allowed him to have some level of contact. But number two, there wasn't any urgency. He's got to come off the line with more speed. Okay. But even with that being true, that's still the throw to make if you read field side post snap. Because here's what you do. You throw it out wide and you give Tyree a chance to run under it. If he doesn't, it's an incomplete pass.
Right.
If he does, you got a big play.
Yeah.
What you don't do is stare down the option route where a guy is literally sitting on it. He's sitting on the route. And, you know, it just there's no explanation on that other than he just decided pre-snap he was going to throw that. And you expect a freshman to do that. You expect Tyler Buckner making his second career start against Marshall to do that. You expect Drew Pine making his second or third career start to do that. You don't expect a 6-year senior in game 10 in this offense to make that read. Like, I don't know. This is a 1st and 10 play. I don't know exactly. This is a basic route one. You have two guys that are good matchups here. What call do you think they should have made here? How is this a play calling issue? This is a route that they've hit plenty of times. You got multiple options here. And it's just frustrating because we take the bad play call. Every time something doesn't work, bad play call. Like, we don't do that here. Right. That's stuff that people say that don't really know the game or aren't studying the film. This was a bad play, but it was a poorly executed play. Now, here's the thing. Does that absolve the coaching staff? No. Because who's responsible for making sure these guys are reading the plays right? Who's responsible for teaching better release technique? Jaden Greathouse's release was okay. It wasn't great. Chris Tyree's urgency off the line wasn't very good. He's got to do a better job, in my opinion, of getting off with greater purpose. There's a lot of different things that can be coached up here. But the fact is you can't have your quarterback making these kind of mistakes.
Right.
You got to be able to trust that your 6-year quarterback is not going to be throwing the ball to this guy. I don't know what play call you guys want to be run here. And that's my frustration, Vince. And so right there, just like that, it's 24-6, and this game was never the same.
Yep, exactly. Right? It felt like that was it to me. Now, they still had plenty of opportunities, but just the way that everything went down, that felt like, that's about it. And that was the first half.
Now, and they're not done yet. And now, next series, Notre Dame gets the ball, and I actually thought they put a nice drive together. You hit Tobias for 10 yards he broke off the route on a scramble, hit it for 10 yards. You get into a 3rd and 8, and he throws a nice corner out to Tyree. I thought he held on to a little bit too long, but hey, he gave his guy a chance to make a play, and Tyree made a play on it for 21 yards. You run Jeremiah Love up the middle for 3. Sam Hartman runs for 2 on a play where he's got Tobias. You remember this play, Vince? He's got to. It's basically it's a pretty easy read, and they're running Holden. You got Tobias outside. You've got I think it was. I think I actually might have that play here somewhere, but I think it was. Actually, now what? This is gonna bother me. I'm gonna try to find this play real quick.
Is this where he hits the running back in the flat?
No, this is the one where he scrambles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he scrambles on this one. Okay, it was a couple plays before this, actually. So I'm going to have it right here. But this is a couple plays before he hit what's his name? The running Audric Estime on the check down for 22, or the slide route for 22, which is also a really nice call. So what you have on this play is you're in a 3-by-1. You have Jaden Greathouse outside and Tobias in the slot. Greathouse comes in on a quick motion. So now you got, again, man free. So Tobias is running a deep out cut against off-man coverage, which is exactly what you want. Like, the motion softens up the coverage. That's what you want. This should tell him, I'm throwing the out cut. I'm throwing this is 101 stuff. I'm throwing the out cut. Then Greathouse runs an over route. Holden Stace runs a wide cut. And the cornerback bails at the snap. And Tobias is 5-6 yards in front of the guy, breaking off his out cut. If he throws it, it's easy first down. First down.
And this is a situation where good pocket, he
clean
had
pocket,
plenty of time.
The pre-snap read should have taken him to the field side on that concept, and then you throw the out cut. He doesn't even look at it. Now they end up being okay because on the 3rd and 5, I really liked that 3rd and 5 call, Vince. That got the slide to Audric, so they went in a motion across. They ran a full release slide. Clemson comes on a blitz. So great play call. There's nobody covering Audric. He gets the ball out quickly. This time he actually does get it off. And Audric runs for 22 yards, gets down inside the 5-yard line. Great play call. Love the play call.
Yep.
Next play was probably my biggest beef of the entire game play calling wise. 1st and 10 or 1st and goal at the 3-yard line. You go 14 personnel. Yep. Clemson has got as reduced and tight of a box as you can possibly have. And he just runs right into it on 2 plays. This is one of those ones where you've got to run a play action here, Vince.
10 guys in the box, Brian. 10.
Was there? There weren't 11.
Because there was a.
I'm joking. No,
was there a receiver in that play? But here's the thing. Yeah, there's 11 when the ball is snapped because Rico goes in motion and he ends up as a wing and he brings the corner in. So it was 11 by the time the ball was snapped. It was 11 guys in the box.
Yeah.
There's a perfect opportunity for play action.
When you look at this, they've got over top of Cooper Flanagan and Eli Raridan. Cooper Flanagan is 6'6", and Eli Raridan is 6'7". Right. You've got a 6'2" corner who weighs about 185 pounds.
Soaking wet.
Yeah, and you've got a true freshman safety who's about 5'11".
Right.
Run a slide smash play action and just throw it up.
Yep.
I mean, that was my biggest problem on that particular.
Right.
Like I have issues with play calling in general that exist today as well, in this game as well. Just the overall, there's no like rhyme or reason. They're just kind of call them plays. I've had that beef for much of the year. Most games. I thought last week was pretty good about that. But this game was just, but even then, there's so much stuff that's there. This was the biggest beef that I had play calling wise, because this is one of those ones where sometimes you know who they are, you know what they're going to do. They've been doing it to you all game. They're going to have a tight box. Take your chance on 1st down. And if you have the faith in your run game and your big 200 back, you should say, hey, we can still got 2nd down and 3rd down to run crunch the sucker in, but let's take a shot and loosen them up. And they didn't. That was a big mistake, big missed opportunity by Jared Parker on that.
You've got 2nd down.
Yeah. 6'6".
Honestly.
I mean, one of the two. 1st down to me is the one where you've got the best chance to catch them.
Absolutely.
Once you get past 1st down, you just lost a yard. Now they're thinking, hey, be alert for play action. Yeah.
Right.
1st and 10. I mean, 1st and goal to 4. You're in. Right. It was 13 personnel, but for all intents and purposes, it's 14 after Rico comes inside and lines up inside. That was a mistake, in my opinion. That was a play calling mistake. That one was big time.
Yeah.
And I didn't love the second play either because you're bigger than Clemson. One thing Clemson can run, and you're running like a slow developing off tackle play near the goal line. It's fine to do that in the field. They've been killing them with that gap stuff like throughout the game, Vince, because you have safeties are back and corners are out, and you can kind of find that crease. There's not going to be no crease there. That was my least favorite sequence of plays, those 1-2 plays. As far as play calls, like no execution. Yeah, the execution wasn't great, but when you're outnumbered that much, that's not putting your players in position to be successful, in my opinion.
Right. Well, and the execution on the second play wasn't great either.
No, they got whooped, but it was like you were going to have a hard time blocking.
Right.
They just had leverage. Like Raridan got beat inside, and
your pulling guard completely whiffed. I mean, if he gets one of those guys, okay, maybe it's Audric versus one. Maybe you got a shot, but it was Audric versus 2 guys, and he had no shot. You know what I mean? So
and the way Audric had been running, Vince, Audric versus 1, I like those odds.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly. So I get the numbers game. Like, you had the numbers to pick up every one of the Clemson defenders, but it wasn't executed very well. But I also don't like. I mean, I just don't like it. You know what I'm saying? Yep. Like the play call, I see where they're coming from on it. You should have had every guy picked up. You should have, but it just wasn't executed properly, and I don't like it.
Yep.
So
it's too predictable on 1st down calls,
right?
In my opinion, and this was a perfect opportunity to break a tendency. And with a 6'6" guy against a 6'2" guy and a 6'7" guy against a 5'11" guy, and you didn't.
Right.
Now, what they could have done is the same concept basically they did on the next play. And this is again where I didn't love the 3rd down and goal call, but it got Jaden Greathouse open. He got open late. Sam sees him. There's a window there. He just has to get the ball low and just let Jaden run underneath it, and it's a touchdown. And he just sails it.
Oh.
And he just had no confidence that his guy was going to get open. So, I mean, who does he have confidence in at this point in time? Like, at some point in time, man, it's like, it's my job to throw the ball and give him a chance to make the catch. If they don't make the catch, then that's on them, right?
Right.
I mean,
agreed. And the other thing I didn't like about this particular play call, if I'm being honest, is a 2-man route. I mean, I would have liked to have more options, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Can I make a comment and tell me what you think about this, Vince?
Sure.
Do you feel the same way if the splits are more reduced?
Probably not, because they have more room to work. Like they were stacked almost like outside the numbers. Like it felt like they were way outside. And then you had 2 tight ends on the left side, right? Because you were in 12 personnel. Bring one of those guys just across the backside. Like that doesn't hurt you. You know what I mean? Like bring one of those guys across the back just in case. You know, because maybe they don't get picked up or something. I realize you're rolling. It's a tough throw potentially, but at least give them the option to do that. You know, like they block back and then they just stood there. I don't know. I just like block for a second, then get on your horse, right?
It just fits in. And again, if you want to be critical of the offense according to the coaching staff, there's plenty of things to be critical of them for. Again, this entire show isn't in no way a defense of the coaches,
right?
It's to say you're misplacing your frustration with the coaches by just yelling play calling. It's like, okay, any numbnuts with a fake Twitter handle and a name that's not theirs can yell that, right?
Right.
You're at IB because you want to have nuance, you want to understand the game, you want to think more deeply. And so what I'm saying is be pissed at the coaches, but here's what you should be pissed about the coaches on that 3rd down play, not dumb play call. Be pissed on the 1st down on the play call. Absolutely. Because there is a time and place where you're like, dude, what are you calling there? Like, what is that call? Right? Okay. The 3rd down is like, why are the splits where they are? That's a scheme mistake. That's a preparation mistake. Why is there no urgency from your players? And why are you making this play with a 6 foot and a 6'1.5", wide receiver when you've got either faster or taller options? And again, if you're going to run that play call, I would have just said stick with 13 and make them think you're pounding it in, where at least you've got some size, or run that same exact look, Vince, but instead of having Rico and Jaden, have Cooper and Eli, or Holden and Eli, and just say, hey, if they cover it, throw it at about 10 feet, because you got a former all-state basketball player at tight end named Eli Raridan who should throw down hammer dunks that they don't have a DB on their roster that can out-jump him for the football. Not a one. So it's not the play call. It's your quarterback didn't execute it for anything. And you could say, okay, I don't mind the play call, but I would have liked to seen a bigger player there. Because if like when they used to run stuff like this with Brady Quinn all the time and Jimmy Clausen, and they would just throw the ball at about 10 feet and let Mo Stovall or Golden Tate or Jeff Samardzija, Michael Floyd go up and get it. Right. So again, that's a coaching issue. The lack of urgency from the offensive linemen, that's a coaching issue. So all I'm trying to get you guys to understand is to say it's at least be critical of the right things, and just yelling play calling is lazy.
Yeah.
And easy.
You had the right personnel. Just flip them. Like, just flip them. Put the tight ends over here. Put the wide receivers over here. Like, I don't know. It's just it's frustrating to me. A lot of it is frustrating. I get it. But yes, to just sit there and just yell, oh, it's play calling. It's all that's just lazy.
Play calling on now again, you want to talk play calling. 1st down, flat out bad play call. Flat out bad play call. Don't like it. So, but the whole point of all this, Vince, is you had a chance right there, 24-6. You have a chance right there to score. You had, again, Drive number 1, you get inside the 30-yard line. You settle for a field goal. Drive number 2, huge mistakes. Drive number 3, huge mistakes. 2 mistakes on routes. Drive number 4, you get all the way down to the 12-yard line, and you miss a wide open guy that should have been a touchdown. You get down your next series, you throw a pick 6 on a play where you had 2 guys with better options, bad read. Next play, you get all the way down to the 5-yard line, and you have a bad play call on first down, and a quarterback just doesn't get the job done. You could also question the personnel usage there. All fair criticisms, but the fact of the matter is, Vince, is we're back to square one, which is this is all about. It's all about the getting into these games against good defenses and just not making plays. I said this during the week, Vince. I know you heard it. I said you're going to get maybe 4 to 5 opportunities in the pass game against the second, because we broke down how good this Clemson team is in pass defense. It's very good. You're only going to get about 4 or 5 chances, maybe 5 or 6 chances to make a play in the pass game. And when they happen, you got to hit them. And they hit 1. And I would argue that was the second quarter crossing route to Rico. Mm-hmm. But that was the exact same thing that happened.
They missed it
earlier in the game, and he missed it. I mean, so
Correct.
it's just one of those things, Vince, where I'm tired of that. So, and then of course the rest of the game was just everything went wrong in the second half after that. Offensive line couldn't block. You call a screen pass that if Chris Tyree catches it, he's got at least 10, 12 yards. And if he can make one guy miss, he scores. Right. And Sam throws a heater about a foot above his head, and Chris can't catch it. Now, Chris has to catch it.
I agree with you.
It's a terrible pass by Sam. And it's just, there was so many of these things where Blake Fisher whiffs on a guy. Your guards get blown up off the ball. You know, you turn guys loose in the blitz game. Your quarterback won't find guys open. I mean, we could go through the whole second half, Vince, and there's opportunities where it's like there's a guy, and the ball just doesn't come out. And or there's a couple times where they had a couple shot opportunities where a guy is about to come open, and Sam can't get the ball off because the pressure's getting to him so quickly.
Right.
And it was one thing after another. And like, to me, those are bigger issues than play calling. And those are also coaching related, because you're not getting your guys prepared to play at a high level.
Right.
And that leads me to the final part of this breakdown, Vince, which is the wide receiver play. Let's do offensive line first. I'm just going to say it. Some of y'all are not going to like it. Don't care. I do care, because I love y'all. So that was harsh, and I shouldn't have said it like that. Because I do care, because I do respect our audience. I love our audience, and that's why we're talking to them. But you're not going to like it, and I'm sorry for that, but I'm just going to say it because it's what I believe, and it's what I believe to be the truth. The further we get away from Harry Heastan, the worse this line gets, and that's exactly what happened under Jeff Quinn. Now, I don't think Joe Rudolph's as bad as Jeff Quinn, but it's not good. What we're seeing right now is not good. And here's what's not good about it. They're starting to catch too much. They're not getting a push in the run game. There's just constantly every play, 1 or 2 guys that just don't do what they're supposed to do. The footwork gets worse and worse and worse. The hand play gets worse and worse and worse. The consistency of execution gets worse and worse and worse each week, Vince. Each and every week it happens. And when you talk about this Notre Dame football team, and you start talking about the run game, you've got one of the best backfields in college football. And I don't think there's any doubt about that. And that is one issue I had with Jared Parker also, is the fact that they just did not get their other backs involved enough. Notre Dame has now had 6 games in a row where they have not been able to get to 200 yards rushing. Now, they did go for 183 against Clemson, which is, pretty good when you actually know that. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty good, but it's also a little misleading, because you had 38 yards on a quarterback scramble or a quarterback read on a pass play. And then you had a 26-yard gain, a quarterback touchdown run on a pass play. So that's 64 yards right there, Vince, that came on quarterback runs on pass plays.
Mm-hmm.
So even then, it's misleading. So when you just look at the pure run game numbers, they were at what? 119 yards. Am I doing the math correctly? Taking away 64 from 183. Did I do that correctly? Yeah, 119. 119 yards rushing against Clemson. Okay, Clemson's got a good run defense. All right, but this is the theme. The most yards they've had in the last 6 weeks. 183 is it. A lot of those scrambles, just pure running yards. It's 176 against Ohio State. Audric Estime has 82 yards at halftime against a team that was giving up like 90-something a game. Audric was ripping them apart. He has 3 carries in the second half.
Right.
And part of it's because your offensive line's getting their butts kicked. So he carried on first down, and now it's 2nd and 11 or 2nd and 9, and now you got to throw the football. And it just was one of those things where I thought the offensive line played well in the first half, but then not in the second half. And you come look at it, like they actually didn't play very well in the first half either. And it's just become a consistent problem week after week after week to where this offensive line just does not play good football. The pass pro is not good. They've gotten less effective in pass pro on the edge. Just overall, Vince, it's just getting worse and worse and worse and worse.
It's very frustrating. It's from top down, it's frustrating to me. I mean, and it's not just the top, and it's not, it's multifaceted, right? It's a football team. Okay. And these kids aren't a bunch of robots that are just going to do exactly what the play call says to do. And it's all the play calling, right? They still have to execute the plays that are being called. And that's obviously not happening at key moments in the game,
right?
Offensively. It's just not.
So it's like we say with other things, Vince, how can I criticize play calling when what they're calling isn't being executed? Because what I mean by that is, would it matter if they called something else? Like, did they not execute because they didn't like the play call?
Right.
Because if he'd have called something else, the problem would still be the same. Well, what would he have called there? Well, he should have called this. Okay. So you're saying that meant the center and the guard wouldn't have got blown off the ball, or the guard wouldn't have got blown off the ball so bad that he knocks, like one D tackle took out 2 Notre Dame linemen on back-to-back plays. Same dude you played last year that you dominated with Josh Lugg and Jared Patterson and Zeke Correll, and they had Brian Bresee, who was a first-round draft pick.
Right. Who's not there anymore.
Right. That group destroyed you. So Peter Woods, a true freshman, made the difference. Guy that's a good player. We like him. We talked about him last week in pregame. But he shouldn't have done that against you, against your veterans, your juniors, and your senior, 5th-year senior.
Consistently.
So right. You've had regression at center from last year. You've had regression at right tackle from last year. And you've had steady regression from your guards all year. And they just haven't been that good, period. And I mean, Pat Coogan just got dominated on Saturday. Rocco was up and down, but Rocco's downs were bad. Zeke was up and down. His downs were bad. But a lot of it was they just, like, Zeke gets blown off the ball. Because he doesn't move his feet. Last year with Coach Easton, Zeke would come off and get knocked back. And remember what we would praise him for? He would immediately be in position to anchor and push back.
Right.
Never does that this year. Did Zeke Correll all of a sudden get weaker? Does he have less fight? Does he not care as much? Or is he not being coached properly? Because last year he would keep his base, he'd get knocked back, he'd recover. I remember the play against Syracuse. Guy knocks him back, little guy gets up in his chest, knocks him back. Zeke anchors and drives the guy back, stays on engaged. But this time he gets blown back, then the guy throws him and tackles Audric behind the line of scrimmage.
Correct.
Last year, even if he got knocked back like that, Zeke never disengages.
Correct. And we praised him because even a stalemate is better than getting blown back into the backfield and allowing that guy to make the play, which is what happened yesterday. And that's just
in a 1 year span, literally almost a year apart. What was last year's game was on November 5th against Clemson. This year's game was November 4th.
That makes sense.
Same center, same 2 tackles, juniors at guard. They're the same. Oh, so you're telling me losing Josh Lugg and Jared Patterson is more damaging to Notre Dame than Clemson losing Brian Bresee and Miles Murphy, who are first-round draft picks? That's what you're going to tell me? I'm saying that rhetorically because I know people in the chat aren't going to tell me that. So that's kind of my whole point. And somebody says, "Oh, the guy at Syracuse is guys." They did that. That was one example of a game that Ryan and I were both at. That happened 5 or 6 times last year against bigger players. He'd
Oh,
get
yeah.
knocked back, he'd
Happened a
anchor
lot.
and push the guy back.
It happened a lot.
It happened often because sometimes you're
Yeah.
going to get beat, or a guy would crash inside on Zeke on a stunt, and Zeke would get knocked, which happens, and then he would anchor and stay on gauge, which is part of football. And then it's Audric and Logan's job to make that guy miss or to get through the hole because you stay engaged, get a body on a body. I've said this a million times. If you don't even drive a guy off the ball, but as long as you just don't get knocked back and keep a body on a body, a running back like Audric Esme is going to go off. And that's exactly even some of they weren't blowing guys up. It's just get a body on a body and let Audric do the work. And Audric did work on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just, it's unacceptable, and I was hopeful that I'd be wrong on this, but as you know, I said I didn't love the hire, but the players seemed to really like him in the interview process. That heard good things about him, see how it does, but I've just been disappointed. And you say, well, they don't have talent at guards. Okay. Then why are you so dead set on playing these current group of players? I've been told that there's talented young guys. Play them. Like, look, I'm tired of saying, well, we don't have good enough players. I'm tired of that. Then put in somebody else. If you know this guy's not getting the job done, give somebody else a shot to get the job done.
Exactly.
Can't be any worse. Well, what if they have run-throughs and the quarterback gets hit? You mean like what we saw on Saturday against Clemson?
Yeah, like yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah.
Frustrating.
Yep. So, and again, we talked about this, Vince. Part of this is those Clemson kids played their butts off.
For sure.
You got to give credit for that. But it's like, it's not, if it was that and the Notre Dame kids were moving their feet and doing the right thing and all that, and the Clemson kids just kicked their butts, that's what happened last year. The Clemson kids didn't not play hard last year. They didn't not want to be there. They just got their butts kicked. This year, Notre Dame's guys got their butts kicked, but it was more than that. It was why they got their butts kicked. That's my problem. By a freshman, by the 5th best D tackle on their roster, right? It's not even like, Rook had a nice game. Tyler Davis had some really big plays, but it didn't matter who they put in. That's unacceptable to me. It's unacceptable to me. And it just keeps getting worse. And we keep saying the offensive line's got to bounce back, Vince, and they just don't. It doesn't get any better. At some point in time, you got to say, when I'm watching the same kid at center, it was, Zeke Curl sucks, bench him. Okay, he's a pretty good player last year, especially the last 8 games of the year.
Oh, yeah.
Why is he getting worse? Why? Tell me why. Explain to me why. And then I'll say, okay, I can get with you on that. All right, cool. I can understand that. Hey, he's moving his feet well. He's battling. He's doing everything a coach would want him to do. He's just getting his butt kicked. Okay, maybe Zeke has got an injury we don't know about. Maybe he lost some strength. Maybe there was maybe he had an illness this offseason. And that happens sometimes, Vince. You've seen this in football where a guy has an illness, but he never can quite get his strength back. It happens. Sure. But I can point to the film and say, no, I'm telling you exactly why he's getting his butt kicked. Because he's not moving his feet. He's not using his hands. Well, maybe Zeke's not taking coaching. Sure. Okay, maybe. But why is it happening everywhere? We've seen Joe Alt progressively get less effective this year. Now, he's still pretty good, but we've seen Joe Alt get less and less effective this season. If you go back and look at the last 2 years, the 5 worst games that Joe Alt's played are all this year. Why? So I've always said this, Vince. If it was just Zeke Correll, or just Joe Alt, or just Pat Coogan, or just Rocco, or just Blake that were doing these things, I'd say that kid needs to get his head out of his you-know-what. But when it's happening across the board, you got to look in the mirror.
Yeah.
And I'll say similar things for the wide receivers coach. I'm tired of the excuses of where they're just freshmen. They're freshmen who've played a lot of freaking snaps, and they're making the same mistakes they've been making all freaking year. No release moves, sloppy top ends, no urgency. They don't compete for the ball. All right, that's fair. Okay, all those things are true, right? People talking about Tobias has got to fight for the ball there. That's not my biggest beef. He ran the wrong route. That's supposed to be a post route, right? Like, why is this key? Let's blame Tobias. Okay, cool. Fine. You guys have a Jones for Tobias? Fine. But it's happening everywhere. Jaden Greathouse hasn't caught a ball in 5 games. Notre Dame is sub 50% throwing balls to Rico Flores. Chris Tyree has a great 2 games in a row and comes out and makes multiple mistakes in this game. Why? So if it was just one of those things, if it was just Tobias, I say, you know what, Tobias is this or that or whatever. Okay, here's what I know. The 3 best deep routes that were run yesterday that got a guy open were all run by Tobias Merriweather. Right? And then Sam finally throws him the ball, and he throws it 10 feet in front of him. And then Tobias is not running the right route. And, I mean, even if he ran the post, it wouldn't have mattered. The ball was terrible. So it's like when you're seeing these things across the board, and it's happening with Tobias, it's happening with, with Jaden Greathouse, it's happening with Rico Flores, it's happening with all of them. And you're saying, like, at what point in time do we say maybe it's not them? And if you're going to give me the stuff, well, they're young, they're inexperienced, then you should not be running the offense the way you're running the offense. Because the best way to deal with receivers who can't get separation is what, Vince? Make it go fast.
Right.
Don't let them just run routes where they've got to win. Like everything Notre Dame does now is they've got to win.
Right.
If they don't win and get separation, then it doesn't work. Okay, if you know they can't do this, or you don't think they can do this, or it's clear that the coaches don't have confidence in receivers, which means Sam Hartman doesn't have confidence in receivers. Then you need to do different things. Here's a thought. I don't know. Let's maybe make sure Jeremiah Love gets 10 touches in this game, running the ball, catching the ball. Now, they did a couple things to Jeremiah. They ran some slides and a wheel. But how about you just put him outside and run a screen to him? How about you put him outside, and if they're teeing off on Audric, put him in 21 and do something where you like here's the thing. They're playing man free. What is something that an aggressive blitz off the edge man free team can get burned with? Reverse, throwback, roll, throwback. There's so much to your arsenal that doesn't need your receivers to get open all the time and win one-on-one. Mix up the tempo. Get more movement. There was a couple things they did, though, that they did do movement, and then Sam doesn't throw to the right guy. We showed 2. We talked about 2 of them right now where they did motion a guy. That guy got it. It forced Clemson to back off their corners. Tobias runs an easy out cut. And that wasn't even a great route by Tobias. It's not even about Tobias. It's about the scheme. Any receiver on the roster would have got open on that play.
Correct.
So for people like, oh, you're defending Tobias. No, guys, it could have been Braylon James. It could have been Jordan Faison. It could have been Chris Tyree. I don't care. The coverage was set up perfectly for an out cut to be open for an easy 10-yard gain. Never looks at it. Never looks at it. But the motion is what got that open. Do more of that. Push the tempo. Mix up the tempo. Do things to say, hey, guys, we can't ask these guys to go out there and win. That's on us. Stop asking them to do things you don't think they can do and you know they can do. Move them. Do different things. It's so frustrating. They're being aggressive. Downhill attacking. Here's a thought. What did Clemson do? First time Clemson went motion across, Notre Dame blitzed off the edge. So you know what they did the next time they came out? They went like this. Notre Dame blitzed off the edge. They ran inside zone. Right underneath it. Boom. Touchdown. Where's that? Where's that? So, those are the things but that's a game plan thing. You've got to go into the game with those type of things. You're playing a great secondary. You know your kids are going to struggle to consistently get open. All right, cool. Then do things to help them. Seriously, do things to help them. Here, example, Clemson did some stuff of that on Saturday events. They would put their running backs outside, motion outside, try to move Notre Dame around to get some isolations that opened up some slant routes and things like that. Like, How many touches did Jadarian Price have in this game?
2.
2?
1, 2.
2 carries for 5 yards. That's it.
Yep.
Jeremiah Love had 3 carries and 3 touches in this game. I mean, if my receivers were getting worked, I'd just go 21 personnel, and I'd do some fun stuff with Jeremiah Love, right? Put him here. Okay, you're doing the slide stuff. All right, cool. Clemson played that pretty well. Do something off of it. Have him do this and have him come on a swing route from this way. And then if that guy flies out with Jeremiah, then Audric cuts right behind. If that guy doesn't, then you're pulling and freaking throwing the thing outside. You had great success with RPOs last week. Nothing in the RPO game this week. Nothing. Those are bigger issues than play calling.
Yeah.
And so again, this isn't a defend the coaches. It's misplaced. It's misplaced. And part of me still believes we had the same arguments last year when it was Tommy Rees and Drew Pine and Tyler Buckner that we're having now with Jared Parker and Sam Hartman. And at some point in time, as the head coach, you got to say, hey, guys, we've got to change up what we're doing. We're not good enough up front right now to be the team we're trying to be. So let's do something different. I'm watching Kansas State running all these really cool routes, and Will Howard's throwing the ball down the field. They're taking shots to guys that couldn't play at Notre Dame. And I'm just disgusted because I'm like, what a great way to scheme that guy open. And just Notre Dame doesn't ever do that. They coached, and I said it last night, they coached like they had no faith in their receivers' ability to get open. And when you go into a game like that and you're just hoping your defense is going to shut them down, and we said, I mean, that's what I thought was going to happen. They're going to shut them down and all that.
Oh, sure. Yeah, sure.
Right. Okay. But here's the deal. That's why you can't throw pick sixes. That's why you can't fumble punts and stuff like that. But my whole point is once that happens, you got to have an answer.
Right.
You can't just say, hey, look, like, because Marcus Freeman said this after the game, like, hey, if we don't have a pick six and muff a punt, then it's a different ballgame. Okay, true.
Yeah.
But they did happen. What do you have built in to say, hey, if we got to go to this, we got to go to this? Every team does that, Vince. Every team has some kind of hurry up built into what they do, except Notre Dame, because even when they're trying to go hurry up, they still huddle sometimes. There's no urgency, and that's a philosophical thing. And that's a head coach philosophical thing because it was true last year. It's true this year. Go watch every time Coach Freeman gets asked about tempo. It's almost like he's like, I don't want to hear that. Like, what are we talking about? It's like,
right.
Like, dude, I'm not asking to be Oregon 2010. I'm just saying have the ability to change. And he'll say, we've got to be able to do that, but they never do it.
Right.
And those are things that I think we can focus our frustrations on is hey, Coach Parker, we need to see you do more of this. Hey, Coach Stuckey, we need to see you do more of this. Hey, but my whole thing about Jared Parker is this, like, look, there's things I've disagreed with about what he's done. But when you have your offensive lines getting their butts kicked and you have no faith that your receivers are going to be able to win and get open, what exactly are you supposed to call?
And when you know that your interior of your line is not going to hold up and, all of those different things. Like
you found out real quick in that game.
Yeah. What real quick kind of hamstrings you a little bit. Kind of hamstrings you. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
What part of the playbook do you like? Where's the little thing on the side of the playbook that you flip to? Is like, okay, guards and centers stink. All right, let's go to those plays. Like,
receivers can get no separation. Okay. But actually there is a section for that, but they don't go to it.
Well, fair enough. But you know what I'm saying? Like it does hamstring you a little bit. It's not like he's just sitting back and like, I'm going to call this terrible play and I'm going to call this terrible play. It's, it's bigger than that. It's big. It's bigger than that. That's just a lazy take. It's a lazy take.
Right. I'm still frustrated from a coaching standpoint. It's just, I think some of it's being misplaced.
Right.
And it's the same. It's like, what's funny is the same people saying, I wish Tommy Rees was still here. The same people saying last year they wanted Tommy Rees fired.
Of course it was.
Right. Like there's issues here. But they're much deeper than what I think we're doing. And that's my whole thing is this show is in no way a defense of the coaches, because I've always said if the execution is poor across the board, that's every as much of the coaching problem as a player problem, if not more so. More so. That's always my mindset, Vince. If you're not a coach, if you're a coach and your unit is not executing well and you don't look in the mirror and say, what am I doing wrong? Why is my group struggling?
Mm-hmm.
Then you're not a very good coach, in my opinion.
Right.
If it's, my guys aren't good enough, they don't do this, don't do that, and you're not a very good football coach.
And it's one thing if your guys are doing exactly what you tell them to do and they're still getting beat. Like, that's a different conversation, right? We're not seeing that. We're not seeing the effort. We're not seeing the fundamentals. We're not seeing some of those things that it doesn't matter how good or bad you are, you can still execute those things. And then if you get beat, then okay, you get beat, right? That's a different conversation, right? I've had kids, at the high school level that they'll do exactly what I coach them to do, and they're just going to get their butts kicked.
Yeah.
Right. And I can't even be mad at that kid.
Right.
Because he's doing exactly what I coached him to do.
Right.
That is not the case here.
Vince, I've said in 2001, I was at Wittenberg. We were a darn good football team. We were 11-1. Our only loss was the Saturday after 9/11. First 2 rounds of the playoff, we go down to Texas, beat Hardin-Simmons in overtime. Second round, we beat Thomas More 41-0 at their place. Next week, we played Mount Union. They beat us like 49-21, 42-21, something like that. And after the game, you're just like, our kids played their butts off. They did everything we asked them to do. That team's way better than us.
Yeah.
And you walk out like, hey guys, I'm proud of you. You guys played your butts off. I'm proud of you.
Right.
I mean, I've been in games like that before.
Sure.
Where it's like, too. And not often, but I've been, and there's been times, Vince, where my team didn't play that well at all. We still beat a team by 40 because we were just way better than they were. Right. And I can live with that. I can live with they were just way better than us. But our kids did everything we taught them to do. They played their butts off. They played as well as they can.
Right.
And here's the thing, even if it was true that your receiving core lacks talent and all those kind of things, then here's what you do. You say, how can we scheme it up to where we can put them in position to be successful? And while we're also doing that, we're going to go recruit better players.
Right.
But like saying, hey, we're a pro style team. And so we're going to run these route concepts. And we're going to, and it requires guys to win, and they're not winning. But at the same time, I just got done saying against one of the best secondaries in the country, Tobias beats Nate Wiggins easily for what should have been a big play. Rico Flores is wide slam open. You miss him, right? I mean, Tyree runs a screen that should have been a big play. 6. He drops a heater over his head. Now, again, he messed up too. You got to make that grab, man.
Sure.
That
was a twofold.
You whiff on a now screen on 2nd and 8. What was the other one you said, Vince?
I was going to say on the pick 6. Like, ball should have never gone there. Should have never gone. Like, the read should not have taken you there.
Right.
Like, it's just.
Both. Your first pre-snap read should have taken you boundary. Even if you'd have stayed field side on your pre-snap, your post-snap read should have immediately told you, I'm not throwing the stick route. I'm not throwing this option route.
Right.
I'm not throwing it. So it's like, what exactly? It's frustrating. It's frustrating because even if you accept the premise of what people say that this team lacks the talent, then that's even more reason that they need to not be doing what they're doing.
Right.
It's even more reason not to be a line-driven, run game-driven team the way they're doing it. It's even more reason not to be a relatively static, pro-style, vertically oriented football team that runs a bunch of mesh and vertical routes, because those kids clearly, if we accept the premise, not good enough. I still don't accept that premise. I just don't think they're being coached very well. There's some, and I don't know what it is. Look, let me say something about Chancey Stuckey. I've talked to maybe 10 people that know him that aren't coaches or players or parents of players. And everyone that I talk to, first-class human being. Great guy. Man of faith. All that stuff. This is not personal. But there's clearly a disconnect between him and the players that's just not working. Or he's not coaching the right stuff. Because this urgency thing, Vince, that we're talking about, it's been an issue all. How many times have you all heard me say the word urgency? Vince, how many times do I use that word in the show? A million?
Yeah.
And it never changes. Never changes. How many weeks have we been saying the O-line's got to, the O-line's got to move their feet better, play with more, force and all, stop catching. Keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse every week. At some point in time, you got to say, you can blame the players all you want, but they're clearly not being coached to play their best. Because that's what you nailed, Vince. If Pat Coogan was giving me everything he had and he was playing with good technique and all that, and it wasn't good enough, I'd say I can live with that.
Yeah.
Same with Zeke. If Zeke Correll was giving me everything he had, and when I mean everything I had, not effort, it's like the technique is there. He's driving his feet. He's doing that. Guy just whooped his butt. There were kids at Clemson on Saturday that just physically could whip Zeke's butt. I don't care who was coaching him at times. He got beat a few times last year, but he won a lot of reps last year too when he was being coached by Coach Easton. But he's not doing though. He's not moving his feet the way he did last year. He's not using his hands the way he did last year. Like, and how many times have you seen one guy blocking somebody effectively and they get knocked off that block by another guy that comes crashing down? It happened on Saturday. Sure. Zeke is blocking a shade, and then all of a sudden Blake Fisher comes out of nowhere and slams into him, knocks him off. The block guy comes free. Right. I've never seen that before. Like I never saw that last year. This is two guys over. And you're just like, why does this keep happening? This happens a lot. What is going on here? What's the disconnect that's causing this? And it's been frustrating. Yeah. It's very, very frustrating. Now, again, am I fire Joe Riddle? No, because it's year one with this group. But I am going to say he's got to do a better job. Chancey's got to do a better job. Jared's got to do a better job. But the only part, and I never would have said Dealin needs to do a better job, except this week his running backs were terrible in pass pro.
Oof.
But when it happens 1 week, I can kind of say,
sure,
yeah, they had a bad week.
One-off. That could be a one-off,
right? Because it's not normal. They're normally very good in pass pro.
Yeah, that is not normal. And then Audric had a great day on the ground. I mean, he played very, very well. But then it goes back to, from a coaching standpoint, why are you not getting some of these other guys involved with what they're good at doing and all of that? I realize you're going to ride the hot hand with Audric, and I have no problem with that. But there's other things that you could have done, and still been effective, right? And I'm not necessarily putting that on McCullough, right? That's I think that's a bigger offensive picture.
Exactly, yeah.
But
and like I said, they tried some things to get Jeremiah Love the ball, but it's kind of telegraphed. You know what I mean? Like, and here's the thing: you're running that slide route. You know what I mean? Like, actually, let me see if I can find that play again, because here's the thought, Vince, that I was thinking about too. Like, when you're running that play and Jeremiah Trotter's going flying out there, what Notre Dame would do last year, they'd run a couple slides. If the team over pursued it, Tommy'd come back with that little angle route, just throw it right over to, where's that at?
Yeah.
It was huge. Like, they scored on it against Navy. They had a big play on it against North Carolina. They had a big play on it against Cal. I mean, like, when teams are overplaying that, where's the just delay seam to Jeremiah Love?
Right.
Like, where are the things that you move him outside and let him run some of those crossing routes, let him run some of those seam routes. Like, Jeremiah can catch the football.
Oh yeah,
like
we've seen it.
Do some things, get Jadarian some of those. So again, if you're telling me that the receivers aren't good enough, fine. Then
you got other guys that can catch.
Yeah,
I promise you that.
Yeah,
and you're also gonna have favorable matchups with those other guys that can catch, because I'll take Jeremiah Love against Trotter Jr. all day. I'll take it.
Yeah.
So
anyway, those are my issues, Vince. It's like it was frustrating. It was missed opportunity after missed opportunity, and there's just not a lot on your call sheet when your offensive line's getting its butt kicked up the middle.
Sure.
We've said, how many times have we said this? If you get beat up the middle, there's not a lot you can do.
Right.
And Notre Dame's just not good up the middle, and then they made a change late. I don't know if Rocco got hurt or if they just benched him, but like, they're so sold that Pat Coogan's the guy that they're not even having Billy Schrouth play left guard anymore. He's playing right guard now. Pitt last week, they brought him in at right guard. So Rocco's got to hold on to his job, but Pat Coogan's just locked in. Like, and my whole thing is based on what he does his job. Okay, not recently.
No,
he's regressed as the season's gone on, in my opinion. Do you agree with that or not? I mean, you can disagree if you want, Vince.
I'm not disagreeing.
He's regressed to me.
Yeah.
So
I'm
anyway.
I'm still puzzled by that decision in the first place, but that's a different conversation for potentially a different show. So, I mean, All right, we got a couple super chats I think we need to get to before we
defensively, just real quick, Vince. The biggest beef defensively, just real. I thought the defensive line, I was so disappointed in the play of the D-line yesterday. Just undisciplined, missing tackles. You were playing a makeshift offensive line that had never lined up like that before, and you made them look like what people think Notre Dame's line is supposed to look like.
Yeah, you did.
Just not getting pushed in the run game. The edge play, you had two young tackles. Jordan Patelho basically I thought disappeared in the game. Javonte didn't have the game I thought he was going to have a field day on the outside. He had a couple plays here and there, but overall, like, he had I think 2 sacks, 1 sack, 2.5 tackles for loss. But they were just kind of like, he had 1 sack in the game, and that was late in the game, I believe, right? Wasn't it late in the game?
I think so. Yeah.
5 tackles for loss and 1 sack against them. Just shouldn't have been the case. It shouldn't have been the case, Vince. This is not a very good offensive line to begin with. They were missing one of their vets. Marcus Tate got hurt during a week of practice, and you couldn't get it. You couldn't get penetration. You let them run. You made Phil Maffa look like Christian Okoye in that game.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So, it was frustrating. It was very frustrating.
Super frustrating.
Yep.
Yeah. So we do have a couple super chats.
I just want to say the D line. I mean, Maris didn't play well. We talked about that yesterday, but on the rewatch, the D line was probably the thing I was probably most.
Yeah, I mean, we can go into a little more detail if you want.
They ranked 98th in the country in tackles for loss allowed. Vince, Clemson did, and Notre Dame got 5.
Yeah,
they ranked 66 in the country in sacks allowed, and that's with their starters. They didn't even play that group. And you got 1 sack, and that was late in the game. And there wasn't even like a ton of other pressure. Like I've said, you and I have had this argument, Vince. Sacks are not always the end-all, be-all to how effective you were getting pressure. But in this instance, it was reflective of the lack of pressure that they got. In the game, in my opinion.
It was.
And that was incredibly disappointing. According to Pro Football Focus, Notre Dame only had 10 pressures in this game.
And Pro Football Focus hands out pressures like candy to babies.
Yes.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, they're very liberal with their pressure numbers. And so that's not good at all.
Nope. Not at all. So that's it, Vince. We'll get to the super chats now, but I'm just frustrated. You know, it's like this was a big game. And if Clemson comes out there and just outplays you and outfights you, that's fine. But the bigger issue is, again, from last night, is that they Clemson played their butts off. This is not meant to take anything away from Clemson. They played hard, but but Notre Dame didn't match their intensity. They didn't match their want to. They didn't match their focus.
Right.
And that's unacceptable to me.
Right. Agreed.
And they're going to have to figure out why that keeps happening in games like this and fix it, because there was no excuse. And again, this isn't disrespect to Clemson, guys. It's not. But you should have beat Clemson. Should have. Sorry. Should have beat them yesterday. You had 6 straight possessions where you score a touchdown and you can tie the ball game up. And you never got to midfield. Do you know that?
Right.
Last 6 drives, Notre Dame never got to midfield.
Right. And if they got to midfield one time, they flip the field. And then maybe your next possession is one where, you can go down and kick a field goal or anything, really. You know what I mean? Like, they just continually couldn't move the football and therefore continually got the ball inside the 10-yard line. They couldn't even get to midfield to flip the field so that the next possession they had good field position. They couldn't even do that, which was super frustrating on those last 6 drives. So, I mean, it was just inept. They were inept.
Yeah, but the defense still gave the offense 6 straight possessions to do something. They gave the offense one of their second half touchdowns. Like, the defense, for all the issues, and this is the point, the defense should not have to be required to play elite football every single Saturday in order to win, because nobody does that. Nobody. Unless you play a garbage schedule like Michigan, nobody plays that well every week when you play good teams. Nobody. And it just wasn't good enough. I'm trying to look at the drive sheet right here, Vince. And second half, This is what Clemson did in the second half. Okay, so let's see here. Clemson, second half, 5 plays, punt. Interception,
yeah,
right?
There you
Interception,
go. 3 plays, interception, yeah.
Touchdown, 5-play punt, 3-play punt, 5-play punt, 3-play punt, 5-play punt, fumble, turnover on downs. And that was the end of the game. Turnover on downs was the end of the game.
Right.
But punt, 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 fumble.
Right.
On Clemson's last 6 possessions, they had 20, 30, 36 plus 2, 38, 51, 61 yards. On their last 6 possessions, they had 61 yards total. That's it.
They had that
Your
many?
defense gave you plenty of chance. Yeah, because they had a 34-yard drive, minus 14. That gets them to 20, plus 16. That's 36. 38 plus 13. That gets you to 51, and then 10, 61, correct?
Yeah, it is. I didn't even think it was that much.
That's only 10. That's only 10 yards a drive.
That's true,
right? And the first drive was 34 yards, so it's like over half of that came on your first drive. If you look at the last 5 drives, it was minus 14, plus 16, plus 2, plus 13, plus 10.
And you know how many,
for all the issues, your defense still gave you plenty of chances in the second half.
Yeah.
Plus, they set you up for a score.
You know how many yards Notre Dame had on those 6 drives that they got back? 60.
Yeah.
Total.
And that's even a little inflated, I would argue, because they got a decent amount on that last. They got 20 on that last drive.
Right.
Where Clemson was basically playing off. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And a lot of their stuff was on scrambles. So it was frustrating. Anyway, let's do the super chat vent so we can wrap up. We appreciate all y'all letting us vent a little bit today. We will be back tomorrow too, also at 1:00 for our mailbag. So we'll have more chances to do this. But yeah, let's get to some super chats, Vince.
All right, Matt. Thank you very much for the super chat. Sam needs to be benched. We need to play Kenny or Steve the rest of the year. We should never have taken a transfer quarterback.
Strongly disagree with a lot of that.
That's your opinion, Matt, and that's fine.
You know, and I appreciate the super chat, Matt, and I respect your willingness to kind of be bold in this kind of statement. But a couple things about this. Number one, Sam, if you bench Sam, don't bench Sam. I personally wouldn't. I mean, the kid, he's played hard. He's practiced hard. He didn't play well. He's not a locker room problem. His players seem to respect him, whatever the case may be. He's about to play his alma mater, the school he transferred from. You start him in that game. Now, if you want to work Kenny or Steve in, that's fine. You know, I would do that. I said, we talked about this last night. I would have a package for those guys. And if you do jump out and kind of start blowing Wake Forest out, I'd get Sam out pretty early. Do like if we get a big lead, you know, we're going to bring you out and we're going to have you run off. Like we'll have you start a series, hand the ball off, and then we'll run the guy in or something like that. Or we'll have you go out there and then we'll bring the guy in or whatever. And you can get standing O or whatever the case may be and do it that way. And I mean, I would genuinely do that because I think he's earned it for the career he's had overall. Mm-hmm. You know, kid's going to still end up as one of the most prolific passers in college football history. And then play those guys, but he needs to play. But the whole thing about he should never taken a transfer quarterback, that would have been such a mistake. This year, you needed to take a transfer quarterback. You were going to have to rely on Drew Pine, Tyler Buckner, Steve Angeli, and Kenny Minchie. Now, everybody knows I'm much higher on Tyler Buckner than most as just a talent if he gets coached correctly. But you're going to put your faith in a kid, even if we all accept the premise that Tyler's as talented as I think he is, and you think he is, Vince, even if everyone in the chat accepts that premise, the thing we also have to accept is the fact that this kid has never proven he can play a full season, ever.
Right.
So even if you think he can be that guy, and I'm not even I don't want to care to rehash is he good or not good, but I don't care. Just for the sake of argument, if we all believed he was that guy, which would be the only reason not to take a transfer is because you believe Tyler Buckner's that guy. Right. Even if you believed he was that guy, what evidence that you have that Tyler can play a whole season?
Right. His injury history is terrible.
So with all due respect, I just don't agree with that. That's a little hindsight 2020-ish to me. I understand the frustration, Matt. I do, but you can't react emotionally as a coach, and that would be an emotional reaction, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Charlie Weiss's last belt loop. Thank you very much. Gents won't lie. Thank you for pointing it out that it's not just Blaine Parker issue. Didn't realize there were so many opportunities blown with wide open wide
Yeah.
receivers.
Now, some of those weren't wide open. Like the Tobias go route, he wasn't wide open, like
Yeah,
8
he had about a
yards. He had
2-yard cushion,
2 to 3 yard
if
step, 2 to
that.
3
Yeah.
steps on him, which against
Yeah.
Nate Wiggins is as open as you're going to get.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And that's the whole point in these games. And those are balls that Sam was hitting last year. So it's clear he
Yes.
has no faith in the guys. But I'm like, that's on you, man, as a quarterback. That's on you. Guys open. If he's on the field, you throw it, read it, and throw it. And if he doesn't catch
Right.
it, then the coaches will take him out. I mean, but you got to throw that
Right.
ball.
Yeah.
But like Rico was wide open on that one. I mean, he was. I mean, there was others where it's like, oh my gosh, throw the ball, please.
Yeah. Oh, MTH with the super chat. Thank you very much. Learning so much tonight. Thanks, Coach and Vince. You're welcome. That's why we
You
do.
can only
these,
learn
man.
if you're willing to learn, and
Yeah,
I
man.
do, and that's not a flippant comment. I genuinely appreciate and respect the willingness that so many people have to learn about it, and the desire to
Right.
be open-minded. That a lot of people, I even in the chat, like some people are just like they're still saying the same things, but there's a lot of people be like, hey, you know what, like. I still don't think the play calling was good, but like and that's I enjoy that because you don't necessarily have to change your opinion on the play calling.
Right.
I'm just trying to get you to think a little bit more critically to say, hey, was that really the play call? What would I have done differently? And how was the play call a problem? Or because like if a play, it's not this simple. If the play worked, good play call. If the play didn't work, bad play call.
Exactly.
That's not how football. That's like saying every shot that a Michael Jordan took that he missed was a bad shot.
Right.
Well, sometimes it's a good shot, it just missed. And not every shot that he made was a good shot.
Right.
Sometimes like, yeah, you probably shouldn't have taken that shot, but wait, I'm glad it went down. You know what I mean? That fade away off the glass, but you weren't aiming for the glass, kind of shot that still goes in, you know what I mean? Like the alley-oop you're trying to throw, but it actually went in the hoop because, whatever.
Right.
But just being more willing to say, hey, look, let me just think a little bit more critically. And we can all accept that the performance wasn't good. I'm not trying to say the performance was better than we thought. I'm just saying maybe we're having too easy of a conversation about, and we're taking the lazy, easy way out. And that's just
right.
That's not what we're doing here. And I think that's why there's 400 some people in this chat, in the show, watching the show. Cause I think people want to be challenged. And as long as you can say, hey, look, I'm presenting the facts. I'm telling you exactly what place I'm talking about. You can go watch them for yourselves. But here's why it wasn't a play calling issue. It was this issue. It's still a coaching issue.
Right.
But this is what we should be discussing, not just play calling, And sometimes it is. First and goal, Vince. Freaking play action. Come on, man.
Sure. Right. Well, the other thing is, and I think we illustrated this tonight, is that, okay, maybe you didn't like the call, but what would you have done in this situation? Like, what's a better call in that particular situation? What's a better call, right? On that 2nd and 2, where they handed it off to Audric, who'd been absolutely killing them, but your center gets blown 3 yards back into the running back. Is it really a play call issue? Is that a playing call? Like, what would you have done differently there, right? Well, the play I would have called, the center wouldn't have gotten blown back. Okay, well, that clearly is not the case.
Yeah.
So,
right. That's not there's no play call that says, hey, Zeke, on this play, we want you to get driven right into the ball carrier.
Right. Right.
It's all part of our illusion, right? There wasn't a play call that would have not have that happen.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Have a solution. Like that's, don't just, anybody can point out problems. Anybody can do that. Well, have a solution, man.
But sometimes what you're pointing out isn't even correct. That's my point.
Well, right.
Sometimes it's like the goal line, the last goal line series. I hated the play calling on that series. I hated every single call that he made on that series. Did not like that entire series. That's a play calling problem. I'll give you that flat out. Some of the third down calls, but you also had a third down call where the running back could have walked into the end zone.
Yeah.
If the quarterback just does a better job, and it makes a throw that we have seen him make.
Correct.
Somebody just said in the chat, though, but I'll say this. I thought Sam played terrible on Saturday. I was so disgusted and disappointed how he played. But you know who else was disgusted with how he played? Sam
Hartman. And I could have told you that. I could have told you.
I mean, he flat out went into the press conference, just owned it.
Yeah.
And didn't do it in a flippant, like, yeah, I didn't play well, whatever. I got to say that I didn't play well because that's what I'm supposed to do. But no, he owned it. I mean, he just tells written all over his face. I played like crap. I hurt my team tonight.
And here's the thing, though. That's yet another reason he gets the start next game. To me, That's part of it because he is a leader. He was voted as a captain for a reason. He didn't play well and he owned it. And I appreciate that. It wasn't like, I just want to go home and cuddle with my dog and watch shows. Like,
well, hey, I sometimes want to do that. I kind of want to do that after the show's over, to be honest with you.
That was a slight towards another quarterback, right?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure you knew that.
Yep.
But anyway, I appreciate that he did that, but I also could have told you that's what he was going to do because I feel like I know who he is,
right?
At least as a football
player.
But
I think Brandon kind of said it though, but like I appreciate and respect that, but you shouldn't be making these football 101 mistakes though. That's the frustrating thing about it.
Right.
It's good on you for owning it. But like what play calls should they have called in those instances? Yeah. When guys were open or he makes a terrible read, like what's the play call that should have been gone to there? Now you want to talk about the preparation isn't right. Okay. We can have that conversation.
Yeah.
Gladly have that conversation because you're going to find that now we're on agreement. Now we're talking. Now we're cooking. Now we're actually talking ball. Now we're being more realistic with how football actually works. But just the sidearm quarterback or the side, what is the armchair quarterback thing where everything's stupid play call. That's fine. That's not what who Irish Breakdown is. There's other places you can get that kind of lame, lazy analysis. That's just not who we are, and that's why people come here. But whatever the reason, it doesn't matter. It's still not good. It's still not where they should be in game 10. It's still not the energy level was not where it should have been for the team that you were playing. Right. But when you go into a game and it's very clear, you don't have that you're kind of concerned about something. The players clearly felt that to me, and they played timid in a lot of ways, except for one dude. There was one dude that I thought came out from jump and was just like, I'm balling out today. And it was number 7.
Number 7.
Yes. Yes.
Both numbers.
I'm also going to make a prediction. He had some ups and downs on Saturday, but as long as he's healthy, Cooper Flanagan's going to be the best blocking tight end Notre Dame's had in 30 years by the time his career's over. Because when he knows what he's doing, holy moly.
He needs to get the ball every now and again, just as a freaking reward for how good of a blocker he is.
Yeah. Saying. More super chats.
Okay. Garth Cassidy, missing Bayless so much.
I agree.
I see him every Friday.
It's not just that's right, because the son plays at your high school. And he's a teammate of your son.
Yeah.
It's not just Joe Rudolph. Joe Rudolph's clearly part of the issue, but it's also the fact that not having Matt Bayless from all the hamstring injuries, this team not being as physical. I mean, last year, the most physical Notre Dame was in November. Well, we've only played one game in November so far, and that was not the case.
Right. True.
Yeah.
Nathan Milton, thanks for the super chat. What's your theory on why the offense is underperforming? Could it be that it's year 1 under the new OC/line coach? Confluence of issues. Big words.
Look, Nathan, to a degree, there's always that, right? I mean, there's always that. This is year 1 under Joe Rudolph, and I'm fine with that. And that, but here's the thing: that was the justification we used for Harry Hiestand through the first couple games. But the expectation was one, and we even talked about it before the season. Yeah. Look, it's going to take Coach Hiestand, 2, 3, maybe 4 games. The question we had is the offensive line will be fine at some point, but how long will it take? That was always the premise, and it took about 2.5 games.
Right.
By the second half of Cal, in week 3, the O-line had figured it out, and they went out the next week against North Carolina and absolutely obliterated them. They had some ups and downs, but for the most part, that line was really good the rest of the way. When they had issues, it's like, okay, I can't run into a 10-man box when we only have 7 blockers.
Right.
I don't know what you want me to do, right? So, but this year it's not that. It's they're progressively getting worse. So that's not a year 1 thing. That's there's a problem there thing. That doesn't mean it won't get better. It doesn't mean it won't get fixed by Joe Rudolph. It may very well be so. I'm not ready to fire the guy. I don't do that. He needs to fix it. But when it continues to regress as the season goes on, that's not a year 1 thing, Vince, because even last year with Chancey Stuckey, I hate the job Coach Stuckey's doing this year. But last year, you could see with the receivers, they just steadily got better and better and better. They were terrible early because poor coaching, injuries, all that other stuff. But by the end of the year, We're like, man, these kids are getting open a lot. They're just not getting the ball thrown to them. Right. And the way the receivers play Saturday, I don't think they're playing as well as they did at the end of last year. But they're still like, they still got better last year. They're not getting better this year. They're not getting any better from week to week to week. They're not getting any better.
Right.
That's a problem. And so why is the offense underperforming? I don't know all the reasons. I don't. I have some theories. I wonder if maybe there's not enough this is who's in charge on offense. You know, maybe Jared Parker's giving too much room to the other guys, Vince. Maybe that's it. You know, maybe the reason there's no rhyme or reason is because one coach is responsible for this, one coach is responsible for that, one coach is responsible for this, and it's not all one cohesive thing.
It's not. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Maybe I don't know that that's it. No, we don't know that. I don't have a source. I'm just saying, like, but that's what I see. Based on what I see, it's like there's no rhyme or reason to this. There's no smoothness. There's no flow to this. You know, maybe I don't know the answer to that, but there's something missing, and it's been this way for a while because they will look like $1 million one week.
Yeah.
And then the next week just look like they don't have a clue what they're doing.
Right.
And guys, Pitt was not a bad defense by any stretch.
Look what they did to Florida State yesterday.
Yeah. Right.
I'm just saying.
That's a good point.
Like, that's pretty good offense for Florida State.
Look what they did to Louisville.
Yeah.
Those are also two pretty good offenses.
Yeah.
And Notre Dame ripped them up. I mean, it just so Louisville has got a very good offense. They've played three. North Carolina had 373 yards, 5.4 yards per play. Louisville had 430 yards, 5.1 yards per play. Florida State went for 501, much of that second half, 6.8 yards per play. Notre Dame went for 535, 8.2 yards per play. Notre Dame had 34 more yards against Pitt than Florida State did on 9 fewer plays. A week later, that same offense looked like the train wreck that we saw against Clemson yesterday.
Yep.
I don't get it.
Michael S., thanks for the super chat. Marcus needs to think about restructuring his whole offensive staff. The only one safe is the running back coach. Your thoughts?
Michael, you've been watching this show for a long time, man. You know that I'm not getting into that conversation.
Right.
That's not my place. Nothing I say is going to have any impact on it. And as a former coach, and luckily Vince is on the same page, so I don't have to make Vince be this way because we both agree on this.
Yeah.
I have had to go home to my wife and say, hey, honey, I'm sorry, I don't work here anymore. And it's not like you just go find another local job. You've uprooted your whole family, moved to a different part of the world.
It's one of the reasons I didn't get into coaching, if I'm being honest.
Like college coaching, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because I didn't want to uproot my family 1,000 times.
I'm a former coach. I don't believe it's my place to say who should be fired. What I will gladly say, and what is my place to say, this is what's wrong. That needs to be fixed. It's up to Marcus Freeman to figure out how to fix it.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't get paid to fix Notre Dame's problems. I don't get paid anything by Notre Dame. It's a professional courtesy. It's just the right thing. I don't want someone to come in here and telling me, hey, you need to fire Vince. I had somebody, I told you a couple years ago, I got that email about 3 years ago. 2 years ago, I got that email.
Wow.
And he never responded to me again because my response was not very kind.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Man, come on.
And it's one. You're always going to have that, Vince. There'd be more people emailing me to fire myself. I promise you. But the point is like, I was pissed that he thought he had the audacity to try to tell me who I should or shouldn't hire. Like who that, so I'm going to go do that to someone else. No, it's just not if you guys want to do that, but Irish Breakdown is not going to do that. What I will tell you, Michael, does there need to be some changes? Absolutely. It's up to Marcus Freeman to figure out if Jared Parker's the guy to do that or not, or Joe Rudolph's the guy to do that or not, or Al Golden's the guy to. He made that decision about Al Golden last year. So I think Al's the guy to fix the job. And he did. Right? I don't know who the answer is to that or what the answer is, but I'm going to tell you this is exactly what needs to get fixed. And here's some things I think you can do to fix it schematically, preparation-wise, philosophy-wise, and all that. And if you think those guys can fix it, then let them fix it. If you don't, then do whatever you got to do. But that's not my place.
Right.
It's not my place. And because if I were to tell you Jared Parker needs to be fired, well, that doesn't just impact Jared Parker. That impacts Jared Parker's wife. That impacts Jared Parker's children. He gets paid a lot of money. Just because you make a lot of money doesn't make you less of a human being with not what you know what I mean? Like, that's just not who I am. And we're not going to do that. But I will say, Michael, there definitely need to be changes. I've just always said this. I don't think it's always about firing people to change things.
Right.
You know, I don't always think that's
I agree.
just the automatic go-to. Sometimes that's needed.
Sure.
It is. Did I think Brian Kelly should have fired Brian Van Gorder after 2014? Yes, I did. But if I'd have said that publicly, would that have made Brian Kelly fire Brian Van Gorder? No, it wouldn't have.
No.
So, you know, it's just doesn't mean I don't think things like that may not be needed at certain positions, but I'm not someone who thinks Jared Parker needs to be fired. I think the first change needs to happen with Marcus Freeman, and I think there needs to be some other changes that need to happen, and kind of let's go into year 2 and make those changes and see if this coaching staff is capable of doing it.
You're not saying that Marcus Freeman needs to be fired, by the way.
What did I say?
The first change. You go. The first change that needs to be happens with Marcus Freeman. I just want,
like his philosophy.
I know what you meant. I just want to make sure people aren't like, what?
No.
That's not what you're saying.
No,
I just wanted to clarify.
His offensive. Thank you, Vince. I appreciate, because somebody would have done that.
Yes,
his offensive philosophy, his belief in that you can win playing this type of football. Because we said, well, you know, they're doing this because they don't have the weapon. No, this is who he is. This is what he believes in.
Right.
And I just think that's not the recipe for success. There's a lot of things that I believe Marcus Freeman is right about and has the chops to be successful. But just like Kirby Smart, when he hired Jim Chaney, when he hired James Coley, which were bad hires because he was trying to win playing 2012 Bama football. It wasn't until he realized, hey, we got to score too. We can still be disciplined. We can still value the football and not turn it over, but still also understand the need to be explosive. So goes out and hires Todd Monken, and 2 championships later. You know, like that stuff happens, and you've got it. And he adjusts. Now he's not like wide open like the kind of change that Nick Saban made. You know, but like he realized we can't keep being that team.
Yeah.
So, all right, we got a couple more here, Vince. Just real quickly, let's get to this one from Charlie Weiss's last belt loop.
All right, thanks, Charlie. Braylon James can't even get an opportunity. Why? Shaking my head.
Man, I don't have an answer to that. I have no idea. I mean,
they're obviously not afraid to play freshmen.
Right.
I don't know.
All of them but him. I don't have an answer to that. I mean, at this point in time, how can it hurt? Hey, he's your fastest guy on the outside. Run a go route.
Right.
So coach him up. If you can't get a kid like Braylon James is coached up by week 10, then
right. Trevor Rocket, thanks for the super chat. Trevor, Brian, and Vince, the original OGs of Irish Breakdown. Nobody is getting fired. LOL. Thanks, Trevor. Appreciate that. Great job tonight, lads. Quick grade on the O-line after 10 games this season.
C plus.
Yeah. Not in the B range.
Yeah,
unfortunately. No. They've had B games, but not overall.
Yeah. They've had some B. I mean, Ohio State was a B plus,
like
A minus game.
B. Yeah, absolutely.
If not A minus game. Yeah, they were very good that game.
Yeah.
That's now the anomaly game. That's the problem.
Correct. Yes, correct. Patrick Fleming, thanks for the super chat. Coaching is all about reaching kids' inner motivation and helping them ground their work ethic in that. That's the hard skill set for a coach to develop, but way more important than just X's and O's.
I somewhat do. If you'd have said coaching is a lot about reaching kids' inner motivation, I'd have said I'm on board with that. It's not all about that, because you could be the most motivating coach in the world, but if you don't teach your kids how to block, tackle, and put them in good positions, X's and O's wise, would I even say that it's more important than just X's and O's? Yes, I would agree with the latter part.
I would,
but
too.
But the all about that? No, it's not all about that. But that is a big. I mean, that's one of the things we've talked about. Made Lou Holtz great is he knew how to. And it was different for every kid. He knew how to press the button.
That's the key. That's the key.
Yeah,
is knowing which buttons to push for which kid. Like that. That takes a talent. That is a talent, man.
Yeah.
And I see it in teachers and I see it in coaches, and that is an absolute talent to have. But you still got to be able to teach the X's and O's as well. Like I can teach a coach some X's and O's, but the coach then has to teach it to the kids. You know what I mean? Like I want a motivator. I want a guy that's going to be able to get in the heads of his players and all of that. It's more important, but there is still the X's and O's part.
Right. It has to be both. It just you can't be 95% X's and O's and 5% motivation, and you can't be 95% motivation and only 5% X's and O's. It needs to be a little bit more here. Agreed. But if you're not good at the first thing, like Lincoln Riley is a perfect example. I think Lincoln Riley's as good as anybody in college football at that bottom. Did you see the trick play they ran on Saturday? They ran a sweep. The sweep, Vince, buck sweep, the running back or the Zachariah Branch goes all the way outside, comes back, flips it to Caleb Williams, and he throws it downfield. Never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
That dude's an X's and O's genius. His team lost by 10. 0 playoff wins.
Right.
0 national titles. Because he doesn't do all those other things well.
Multiple Heisman Trophy winners.
Yes.
And he can't win a playoff
game.
And
one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the NFL was another one of his guys who didn't win a Heisman in Jalen Hurts.
Right.
So, yes, Vince, correct. 3 Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks. Correct? Caleb Williams, Kyler Murray, and Baker Mayfield. Yeah. But 0 postseason wins or playoff wins. Not even really competitive in all but one. 2018, they were at least competitive against Bama. Lost by 11, like 10 or 11, but they were competitive. Well, the Georgia game in 2017. But again, you have 54 freaking points. You can fire Alex Grinch all you want. Alex Grinch is a small part of the problem. Every defensive coordinator he's had sucked. But again, why? Because he's not good at the building people, the building a team, building mental toughness, physical toughness. All those things are important. And to me, that's kind of what the inner motivation comes from. That's how you're mentally tough. That's how you're physically tough. Because if you're not mentally tough, you're not going to be physically tough in football.
Right.
Last one, Vince.
Chief Brody, I'm in late, boys. I'll go back and watch this whole thing tomorrow. But yeah, I don't think this is a small tweaks thing. I think they need to start over on the offensive operation, as I said on the board.
I don't agree that they need a full start over. Now, I guess I should say I need to read the board post because you may not be calling for everyone to be fired. You may be saying just a full start over on how everything's aligned and who's
schematically, the chain of command.
If it's something like that, I'll have to read your post. Then I could say, I don't think it's a small tweaks thing either. There's a lot that needs to change.
Right. And that probably won't change before the end of the year, by the way. I feel that way as well.
He did respond, Vince. He's more referring to the structure, not firing everyone. So he just responds. So he's more talking to the latter.
I appreciate that. And I agree.
Which I'm on board with. Yes. There needs to be a wholesale philosophy change, structure change, all that. But just changing the people, there needs to be some level of continuity in the room.
And again, and that starts up top with the head coach.
Yes. Right.
It starts with the head coach.
Right. Now, he may decide in order to get where we need to get to, I need somebody different at certain position. And if he decides that's part of life. Right. And it sucks, but that's his decision.
Right.
But my whole point is this: if y'all don't like Jared Parker and you think he should get fired, okay, he gets fired. But if he hires a new coach that's going to implement his philosophy that we see now, it's not really going to change a whole lot.
You're not going to be any happier a year from now than you are now.
It's going to be the same problem.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's it, Vince.
All right. Beautiful. Well, thanks everybody for joining us on this edition of the Irish Breakdown Podcast. Upon further review, one of the fun shows, man. Even after a loss, I still love getting into the film and breaking it down. And I appreciate as many of you being here as you have been, just to learn.
Yeah, great crowd tonight.
It's not just one thing. Okay.
And it's higher now than it was an hour ago, Vince. There's more people in now than it was an hour ago.
Which is
That's
crazy.
Awesome.
Which is crazy, awesome. Man. So appreciate everybody being here to learn about the game, because that's why we're here. Sorry, Gideon. Yeah, we gotta end the show, man.
Vince has an early day tomorrow.
And we just changed the time. So this is really feels like 11, So it's I'm all messed up in the head right now. And that probably goes without saying every day. But anyway,
that's a whole different issue, Vince.
That's a whole other thing. You're not wrong, man. You're not wrong. But Thanks everybody for joining us. Really appreciate it. Make sure you hit the like button, the subscribe button, the notification bell, because you just never know when we're going to have another show. Brian will be back tomorrow with the mailbag at 1 o'clock. Jesse and I will be back at 6 tomorrow for our
IB Nation
Sports Talk. There we go. See, it's late. That's past my bedtime. IB Nation Sports Talk, and it'll be the dynamic duo tomorrow and Tuesday. And then Sean Stiers will be back hopefully after that.
Yeah. Sean's in Paris, France. For people who don't know, Sean is in Paris, France with the women's basketball team who play a huge
tomorrow.
When tomorrow's show is off, right? Actually, what time is the game
they
tomorrow?
Play at 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock? Okay, so DVR it, and once our show's over at 1, right, you can go watch the women's basketball game against South Carolina. Which is going to be big. 1 o'clock on ESPN. So I cannot wait to watch Hannah Hidalgo again.
This women's team should be really, really good.
She's going to be a star, dude. Yeah. She's going to be an absolute star.
Yeah, barring injuries and all of those different things.
And I love Olivia Miles as a player, but this girl's way better than Olivia Miles is going to be in my, because she can shoot. Like, that's a big difference. And she's even faster. So if you have not watched, if you don't know about her, if you're not a women's basketball fan or you just kind of following, wait till you get a true freshman. I think she's the number 5 player in the country last year. She is a stud.
Yeah.
I mean, this team's going to be fun to watch. I don't know if they're going to be, I'm worried about the inside, the bigs. I'm a little bit worried about that compared to last year, but we'll see. But man, they're going to be so good on the perimeter. So good on the perimeter.
Oh my gosh. Sorry. And in transition, and I think their defense is going to be really, really good too. So
they look way more athletic. They're going to be more athletic, in my opinion, than they have been. Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. And Olivia's, I don't believe Olivia's playing. I don't believe she's playing. I don't think so.
I hadn't seen, so I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
But all right, everybody, that's going to do it. So we will talk to you. For Brian, I'm Vince. We will talk to you next time on the Irish Breakdown podcast.